Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head on UATV. I'm Oles Garjuk. Ukraine and Georgia have historically had a close political relationship. They have similar political agendas like desire to join European Union and NATO and implementing reforms. Both countries have also faced common problems: authoritarian regimes overthrown by revolution and Russian aggression followed by occupation of territories. Despite these similarities, recent years have seen relations between Ukraine and Georgia become controversial. To have a better understanding of the situation, we are joined in the studio by political scientist Anton Kuchuhidze. Hello and thank you for coming.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
So, first of all, Mr. Kuchuhidze, how would you name Ukrainian-Georgian relations as of today? Troubled, a close partnership, or a full-fledged friendship?
I can say that these relations are strategic. First of all, and the second, the friendship between our countries is great. As previous ambassador of Georgia to Ukraine said, any situation, any problem can't destroy the friendship between Ukraine and Georgia.
Okay, this is a very interesting topic and we're going to discuss it more today. As far as I know, since 2012, communication between Ukraine and Georgia was almost absent for 5 years. Like, there was no high-level visits between the countries, neither presidents nor prime minister or even foreign minister. Why was that?
Yeah, really, we had some lack of communication during this period, but I can't say that Ukraine and Georgia didn't support each other. Especially Ukraine always supported and today supports the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Georgia. Yes, and it is principal position of Ukraine, and it was principal position of Ukraine in 2012. So I don't see any problem, and I want to add that at that period some high-level Ukrainian delegations from the Cabinet of Ministers visited Georgia because of studying the experience of Georgian reforms. Yeah, so we had communication, but you are right that
there was a gap. Yeah. There was a gap of 5 years. Why was that?
It was, I think, more not official problem, but maybe there were some problems between personalities who were in office at that time in Ukraine and in Georgia. I think only at this level we can consider this problem.
What do you mean by that? Which persons have problems?
The leaders of states at that time.
Mm-hmm. Is it also concerned about Mikhail Saakashvili coming to Ukraine and having here a position of the chairman of Odessa Regional Administration?
Georgia has its position, and this position is different from the position of Ukraine. But at the same time, Georgia respects the sovereign right of Ukraine to take any decision concerning Mr. Saakashvili. Really, states have different positions, but the personality of Saakashvili has not any influence on the friendship between Ukraine and Georgia.
Well, but still, I don't understand one issue. Like, Mikhail Saakashvili is wanted in Georgia, and Georgia was calling for extradition procedure. Ukraine is a friendly country to Georgia, and Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko entrusted Mikhail Saakashvili, who is wanted in Georgia, high position in the governmental institution in Ukraine. I'm just wondering, what was the reaction of the Georgian authorities?
As I said, there was not any critical, concrete political decision
so it
against
didn't cause
Ukraine.
any problem about this?
Yeah.
It didn't cause any problem. Well, Were the current Georgian authorities supportive of Ukraine during Euromaidan revolution and during the Russian annexation of Crimea?
Georgia, as a state, respects territorial integrity of Ukraine, and I want to say that Mr. President of Ukraine had official visit in Georgia during July of this year, and then the leaders of our countries stated that two countries cooperate closely in the sphere of mutual recognition of territorial integrities of both countries at the level of the United Nations and at the level of the Security Council of the United Nations. So we have good political communications on this issue, and also states have good communication concerning the mutual experience how to improve reforms, mutual reforms in the states in the course of European Union integration and in the course of NATO integration.
Yeah, but up to some point, Georgian authorities, as far as I know, have avoided some direct statements about Russian aggression in Ukraine and all the situation in Ukraine when it was happening since 2014.
Georgia,
are you aware of this?
Georgia supports territorial integrity. Yes. It's principal position of Georgia, and Georgia has also the same problem with Russian Federation. Georgia doesn't have direct diplomatic relations with Russian Federation.
Not anymore.
But they have economical ties with Russian Federation, and I think it is very pragmatic position of state. And it should be also respect. And Ukraine also, Georgia also supports Ukraine in the sphere of medical insurance. Some of representatives of army, of Ukrainian army, had rehabilitation, health recovery in Georgia. Some children from uncontrolled territories who had the status of internally displaced persons also had the program of health recovery in Georgia. So at the level of political support, at the level of humanitarian support, Georgia supports Ukraine as they can. Because Georgia is a little country, they can't have great influence on Russia or great influence on the position of European Union concerning sanctions, etc. But what they can, they do for Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. What about the trade sector?
Unfortunately, trade sector is very simple between Ukraine and Georgia. For example, if we look at 2016 year, the whole trade turnover is equal to something like more $300 million, and frankly speaking, from the Ukrainian part, Georgia is not important trade partner, and
to Ukraine
for Ukraine, yeah, and economic experts said that the trade between Ukraine and Georgia has not a systematic character. But if we talk about Georgian part, Ukraine is the 8th trade partner for Georgia, and
it used to be in top 3 back in 2012.
We have good potential for this, but unfortunately today Ukraine is only 8th. But nevertheless, despite some difficulties, for example, if we look at the 2015 year, Georgia, for example, gave Ukraine 1.5 million wines, and it was a really good result, as Georgian experts said at the time. So we can say that potential really big if we talk about food sector, if we talk about agricultural sector, but unfortunately we have bad results because of real problems. And if we look at the whole Ukrainian export during last 3 years, unfortunately it was reduced in all directions, not only in direction of Georgia, but with the European Union, with the Russian Federation, with other states, with the other states, unfortunately.
You mean that the potential of the trade sector is increasing or decreasing in Georgia towards Ukraine?
Now, unfortunately, this potential is decreasing, but the real potential is much more bigger than we have today, like some results.
What are the reasons for a decreasement?
First of all, interim problems with Ukrainian economy. Because we see that Ukrainian production reduced during last 3 years up to 20%, unfortunately. Also, people has not so big money, and Ukraine can't invest in Georgia. It's a real problem today in Ukraine. So Georgia shall take into consideration this economic problem in Ukraine. So we have such decreasing process, unfortunately. But when Ukraine had more strong economy, the amount of mutual trade turnover was much more than we have in 2016.
And I want also to understand when the ice started melting, when there was a breaking point after these 5 years gap of silence regime between our country, between Ukraine and Georgia, when the situation started to change?
This situation started to change in 2014, and for example, during last 3 years we had 2 official visits of Georgian president to Ukraine, and also we had the official visit of the President of Ukraine in July 2017. So also I can add that on the interparliamentary level, relations between Georgia and Ukraine are also good. And if I'm not mistaken, this May, the Parliamentary Group of Friendship of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine had also official visit in Georgia and had very productive meetings with all representatives of government and parliament in Georgia.
Do you have any ideas how to straighten these good relationship between Ukraine and Georgia?
These relations can be strengthened, first of all, because of reformation of 2 countries, because of good reforms in economical sector, first of all, and these economical sector reforms can help, for example, for Ukraine to invest more in Georgian economy. Today we had 50 Ukrainian companies with Ukrainian money which are working in Georgian market, and if we have not any problems in Ukraine with economy, I think this index can be much more bigger than we have today.
So only these economic reforms. What else would help to improve the relations? How do you think? Maybe some cultural events. Are there any festivals? Are there any cultural exchanges that are going on between the countries?
We have not any problems with cultural exchanging with each other. We have not any big problems at the political level. So really we have problems only in economy, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to move more onto some positive topic, which is tourism. Georgia is one of the most popular destinations for Ukrainian tourists, as far as I know. And would tourism help to improve the political relations somehow? How do you think?
You are right. If we look at the 2015 year, 133,000 Ukrainians visited Georgia. because of tourism. It is a really good figure, and such links always help to strengthen people-to-people contact, which can make the political agenda of two countries more effective, more productive, and if two countries have such strong people-to-people contact, they can support each other as they do it now.
Mm-hmm. What about Georgians having tourism in Ukraine? Do people visit Ukraine as often as Ukrainians visit Georgia?
Ukraine has...
is less touristic place?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about some, I don't know, some events which are organized in Ukraine by Georgian organizations or vice versa? Do they exist? Do you know about some festivals?
Yeah, first of all, I must say that traditionally Georgian diaspora in Ukraine always organize some festivals concerning Independence Day of Georgia in May. It is one part of cultural relations. And the second, last weekend, we had Tbilisoba in Andreevsky Uzviz. Tbilisoba is traditional festival for Georgia. Georgians celebrate the day of the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, and they also celebrate the grape harvest. At this day, they have different cultural programs. So
it's a big holiday in Georgia, right?
Yeah, really big holiday. And
what was happening in Kiev, in Ukraine? The same Tbilisobi, yeah, the same holiday was happening in Kiev over the weekend. And what was the program for this festival?
Last weekend you could see different Georgian dishes, different Georgian souvenirs, different Georgian dancings, different Georgian songs, etc. It was really made in traditional form.
Was it the first time this festival was held in Ukraine?
No, last year we also had such festival in Ukraine.
So it's the second time?
Yeah, as I know, second.
Mm-hmm.
Such festivals, such events always strengthen friendship between two nations, and Ukrainians and Georgians are big friends, and after such festivals they are more bigger friends.
Okay, thank you very much for this conversation. I hope that the friendship is gonna just getting more strong and strong. That was political scientist Anton Kuchuhidze. Thank you for watching Head to Head. I'm Oles Gerjuk. Goodbye.